Hi guys, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to find clients as a beginner virtual assistant. And before I dive into it, I just want to remind you whose channel you're on, right? So my ways and priorities are typically different from your typical type A hustle grind VA or entrepreneur in general, right? As a reminder, I tend to value, not tend to, I do value and prioritize how my nervous system feels as like numero uno. And then the second priority is, you know, do I see myself having kind of a long-term relationship with this client, with this person? And do I like that feeling? Do I like how that's going to feel? And then thirdly, is do the services match? So I just want to remind you of that I am not about more work, more clients, like more is better type of VA work. So if that's what you're looking for, this is not the channel for you. Um, my way of finding and getting good matches is like I see this person as someone who's going to be in my circle for the next couple years, hopefully, and who I'm going to be interfacing with, you know, a couple days a week, every week for the next few years. So it's a big decision. I don't take these things lightly. Um, yeah, so I just wanted to like clarify that. So grab a seat, get your beverage, and I'm gonna start. Oh, wow. I didn't even plan that, but my mug matches my shirt, and I love that. Okay. Um, so here's what you're gonna hear when you like start being a VA is like try Fiverr, try Upwork, the people throw these like platforms around and you can try that. I did try that. They did not work for me. They did not feel right to my nervous system and I did not get any clients from them. And I didn't want to be on those platforms. It just didn't feel right. I felt like my game was in the one-on-one personal connection, and that is still where my game is. I can ball there. I cannot ball on a Fiverr and like doing it that way. It's just not how I work. So I did not do it that way. So here's my biggest thing, my biggest first step for if you're someone like me is that your first clients are more often than not already in your known network. So hear me out. They're probably like if you think back to maybe your W-2 jobs, think back, and this is was the case for me. If I thought back to one of my W-2 jobs, which I did, I worked for a nonprofit, and the nonprofit hired a contractor accountant. She had her own business. She was a solopreneur. She did accounting and finance for other small businesses. I reached out to her, and she hired me as her first hire, essentially. She was flying solo for like 10 years. So think of your jobs and be like, who did my boss hire? Did my boss hire someone to do the accounting? Did my boss hire a marketing person, who's a solopreneur? Did my boss hire this small business or that small business? So like think of the people who maybe were in your field in a W-2 job, but they weren't W-2 employees like you. They had their own business. So think of those people because you probably interface with them. You'll at least be a warm lead, right? A familiar face, someone who is somewhat in the circle. Um, and then another group of people you can kind of think about and potentially reach out to are just generally people in your past. So some of my VA clients were first my pet sitting clients. So if you have other gigs, if you were a babysitter, I don't know, if so you could be, maybe they were a teammate and now they own a lawn care company. You know what I mean? So think of your past and, um, again, filter through and be like, who of these people is an entrepreneur now, And so what my person who was my pet sitting client, she was my pet sitting client for a year, I think. And it was like, or maybe I didn't even know, I don't even think I knew the details of her work at that time. I knew she was a lawyer. I didn't know in what capacity. And then like later, when I refreshed my website and was sharing with people I knew, like her, hey, she was also very active in her local community. So I knew I wanted to reach out to her because I knew she might know other business owners, even if she herself was not one. Turned out she was one, and she had just left the corporate lawyer world a year ago. This is back in 2024. So in 2023, she had left the corporate lawyer world to start her own private practice. Little did I know. And so then she ended up hiring me as a VA to do like branding and graphic stuff. So you don't know what people's journey is and if they have side gigs and need help. Um, but reach out to people you might know because you'd be surprised. And again, like this is another whole point of this is like people hire people they already like know and trust. And so like she knew she had already entrusted me with her home and her dog, which are like pretty huge responsibilities, right? So, you know, hiring me for her business to do some branding and, graphic design work was kind of like low-hanging fruit at that point because she was like, we love Kelly Sue. Like we trust her implicitly with, you know, our pup and our lovely home. And so, of course, she's probably going to carry over in the same way in her VA business, right? So contractors who your boss used to hire, people you already know. And then I would say the next level of outreach that I have done and it has worked successfully, mostly for pet sitting, but I think definitely it can also work for VA marketing, excuse me, is your local Facebook groups. Everyone loves a local business owner, right? So get into some Facebook groups of your local towns. Now be thoughtful of the towns you choose. Don't just get in willy-nilly. Get in to Facebook groups of towns that you like, you're familiar with, you're kind of local to also. And you can, most local groups have like 1 day a week or whatever where businesses can promo themselves, right? So go through those promos and see who's in there and see if you resonate with anyone. There's probably going to be a lot of construction people, interior design, pool cleaners, all of that. But then there's also going to be, all other kinds of business owners in there. So go through them and maybe you'll resonate with some and like start your list, right? So as you're doing this, you're going through these kind of groups of people who are already in your circle somewhat, some closer, right? Maybe you worked with them to like a couple circles out, like maybe they're just a business owner in your neighborhood and you don't know them yet. But like get yourself a list. Create a list of like I would say, 15 to 20. Start with 15 to 20. You're not going to reach out to that many people, but like get a list of like here's like 15 people or businesses that I could see myself happily having as a client and working for. And how do you get there? This is how you then you're going to narrow it down even more. So that was step one, just like going through your contacts. Step two is you're going to essentially vet them all first. So we're gonna be narrowing down this list of 15 or 20 that you've gathered, even better for you. And this is where your nervous system kind of comes in and your spidey senses. And if you're intuitive, like if all of that, which if you're here, you probably are, because like we are the same. Um, this is where you do like that kind of research. It's similar to dating, right? You find somebody and then you just go down the rabbit hole and you try to find out as much about them as you can and see like, okay, does this person feel at least from what I can find online, do they feel like they could be a potential match, right? It's the same thing with this process. So you have your list, you're going to their websites, read their bio. Bios to me are huge. I'm always going to the about page. I don't know why people skimp on the about page. That's like to me the most interesting part of your website. Tell me about you, your history, where you came from. Give me something to like, munch on like that is unique about you. Like, don't give me some generic jargon. Anyway, that's just like my like pet peeve. But go to the bio page, find out about them, read through their website, their socials, whatever, LinkedIn, whatever. I hate LinkedIn, but do the things. And Um, I don't know if you just heard that. Sometimes my stove makes little bell sounds. It's really funny. Um, and vet them and be like, does this person seem coherent? Coherent in the sense of, how they present, what they write, what they post in the Facebook group, if that's that, or does everything seem, or rather cohesive is perhaps what I meant to say, and aligned and grounded? What's the vibe? Or is the vibe frantic, on fire, hustle, grind, more, whatever, know what your red flags are and know them when you see them. So you're going through and you're vetting. And if there are red flags and everything's on fire and everything's frantic or just seems disorganized or just boring and you're just like, no, this is a no, cross them off the list, right? You want to think about if this person were to give me work, maybe on a weekly basis, how would that feel? Like what could that feel like? Do I think it would feel comfortable, easeful, spacious, kind, you know, or does it feel kind of tense, kind of like they're just in it for profit, kind of like they're cutting corners and trying to get the most out of you for the least amount of money? And can you figure all that out just by looking at a website? Not really, but you can often get a vibe of a person. So this is what I mean when I'm like, you know, slow down because right here is really where you can save yourself some headaches later. If someone is on the line and you're like, I don't know, they don't seem so bad, but there's something, just listen to that and just cross them off the list. I don't know. That's what, there's plenty of clients in the sea. You want full on, yes, this person seems fabulous. Maybe you've heard, maybe they have videos on their Instagram. You can hear them speak, talk, all of that is so helpful. Get all the intel you can. At the end of this process, you're going to want to have like 5, 6 solid yeses for yourself, at least, right? So that's a really great start. So you went through your people, you had a wide list, you kind of researched and felt the vibes, and then you funneled that down into 5 solid yeses. Like that is amazing. Um, then from that, well, no, I would say included in this. I'm sorry, this isn't the next step, but while you're going through the websites and everything and vetting these people kind of based on their virtual profiles, you also want to think subject matter, right? Are they an electrician? Are they a therapist? Are they a doctor? And if any of these types of things, if any of these industries totally bore you or you're totally not interested in working in them, then that is a no, right? You know, I wouldn't want to work for an electrician, probably, or a plumber. No offense to them. We need them. Would I want to be their VA? Probably not. No. So, I like the holistic arts. I like health related type stuff. Um, I have two finance clients who I'm actually grateful I have because I've learned a lot working with them. And, I took her on because I knew her as a person. And I'm grateful I did because I've learned a lot. And I actually now enjoy creating the content, the financial type of content. But so subject matter matters. So think on that too. Do you want to be in this wheelhouse of interior design or, hardware or whatever type of business they have? Are you going to want to be in that mind space and business, and world for such and such amount of hours every week? Yes or no? And that is another way to clear that list and narrow it down to your 5. Um, let's see. So before I move on to the next step, which is the outreach itself, reaching out to these 5 people you've narrowed it down to, I want to just do a little sidebar and talk about family and friends because it's inevitable. People are going to find out you're doing a thing, and they're going to ask at the holidays or church or whatever what you do. And so you kind of have to have, I think it's wise to have a line that you hold whatever that is. I personally would not want to engage in a business relationship, definitely not with any family members. No way, Jose. And not with close friends either. Um, I feel like that can get messy, especially on the VA side. Pet sitting can be a little different. Um, it's a little bit of a lighter lift than like being someone's VA in their business. But I would just know where you stand. I know I don't want to do that with family because I know in my experience, not me personally, but in my family, um, like money, when money gets involved with family relationships, it can get kind of ugly and like messy. And I just don't want to have that even like be a potential by being in a business contract with someone. So if I were to offer my services to anyone in my family, it would be it would be because I volunteered to do so. And that's that. It's a gift. Um, and insofar as friends go, I don't have a ton of friends, and I like it that way. I have a best friend. I have a couple close friends, and I think, and the same thing would go. If I were to do anything of my services, it would be a volunteer thing. And I don't want to be mixing like business with friends. I've also seen it kind of not work out for people when they do that. So, and because I've been behind the scenes of business people for a long time. So I would just know where you stand on that and be clear about it. And I would say also, last thought on this, I just harkened back to when I was early on in pet sitting. I first started doing like friends and family discount for pet sitting. I know this is VA video, but it still applies. And I later regretted it because you're doing the same work you're essentially doing the same work for a deep discount, and then they keep hiring you at that deep discount, and then you keep regretting that you gave them the deep discount in the beginning because they were your family and friend. It's like either they're a client and they pay a normal rate so that you feel well compensated for the same work that you're doing for them, or you just either you don't get into that relationship or you're like, I can volunteer to do it, which I absolutely do not do that for pet sitting. Um, so yeah, just know where you stand because it's going to happen. Friends, family, all that is going to come into the mix when people know you have a business and you're doing this and that and the other thing. I also don't barter. I don't think that it's another thing I've seen go sour. I, as an entrepreneur, feel much better being paid hard, cold cash than being paid in your services that maybe I don't want in the first place. Like, let's just pay each other for services. That's how I stand. So, like, if you're a photographer and I'm a VA and you need someone to work on your website and I would love to have a professional photo shoot, we should pay each other for those services, not barter. It's clean, it's appropriate, it doesn't get messy. And I think it's just, yeah, cleaner that way energetically. Everyone feels better. That's my stance. Okay, back to the game. So then the next stage, once you have your, final list of great matches, is the outreach. So this step, now this is again, this is how I do it, right? This is how we do it here in this corner of the world. We are reaching out to these people individually. And this is because, again, you're essentially like deciding and vetting and moving in this process. Like, is this person going to be kind of in a long-term relationship with me in a work sense, but still, And so you're reaching out personally or personalizing these emails, right? It can be a little bit of a template, but we're going to personalize it and we're going to reach out one by one. And we're going to, mention their business name, mention the type of people they serve, um, give some specific examples of how we could help them. And you can kind of brainstorm that probably on your own or with ChatGPT or whatever, but you're trying to personalize it. You want it to read like, oh, this person really looked at my website and they understand my, clientele. They understand some of my needs and what I could use help with. It sounds like they're experienced working, supporting business owners. You want to make it distinct and don't just let AI write it. It has to have a little bit of your flavor. I am so over like AI written stuff. It's so, I mean, it's so just like dry. So please add your flair. Um, Personalized, specific examples. Oh, and how many hours a week you're looking or you have available, right? That makes a big difference. So are you looking for someone who is, able to give you 10 hours a week, or are you looking for someone who only needs like 1 to 2 hours a week? That's very important context for the business owner. They might only have a little bit. So if you're coming at them like I'm, looking for a role that's more like 10 to 15 hours a week, that's not going to be a fit, right? So you got to let them know how much time you have available for them, give or take, like roughly. And then if you do have a website, where your services are listed or any of that, testimonials, packages, rates, link that. If you don't have a website, that's also okay. And you guys can talk about that in an email if they come back to you, and then flesh that out live when you have a call. But try to be um, at least like connect with them personally, show that you know and understand their business, give them a little vibe of what you can do, how you can support them, and kind of what you're looking for. And I can read to you mine that I wrote. I'll just try to summarize it. But this is the email. Literally, I went back and found it from like January of 2024 when I reached out to the accountant who had worked at the art center with me. Now, because she was the contracted accountant, I was the front desk girl. We definitely knew each other. I mean, we would talk, chat all the time, but like our work didn't necessarily overlap a lot, right? So, we each knew that we were both great in our roles, but we didn't like work like directly with each other. But we had kept in touch. I had moved back from Phoenix to New Jersey, and I just had a ping, and I was like, "What about Melissa? She owns her own business, and." I don't know if she has help, but it's worth asking. And I always liked her. We always got along great. And I could see myself being able to support her in many ways. So I wrote, now this is going to sound a little different because at this point I was looking to replace my role as an EA prior to this like shift. But what this ended up turning into essentially was my first VA client. She hired me for about 5 hours a week, and I started doing work for her while I had my W-2, and it was actually really perfect. But this is how I initially reached out to her. I said, "Hey, lady," because that's how we talk. "I got a ping with your name today, so I am reaching out. To keep it brief, I'm on the search for a new position and wondering if you are in need of an executive assistant or an assistant for your growing business. I've been working as an EA for two plus years for a woman who now owns and operates four LLCs. Yes, you read that right. And have been offering high-level support in managing, marketing, and maintaining all of them, and all in a 25-hour work week. I know you know I'm highly efficient and organized person, and so handling all the tech, graphic design, paperwork, and behind the scenes admin of a business person is very much in my wheelhouse, so that they can stay in their zone of genius. I would be seeking an ongoing position that could guarantee me, and then at that point I said around 20 hours a week, which now I know is a lot, but it's fine. This is just an example. But I'm still house sitting and I don't want to work a full-time post, although the work I do in 20 hours is what would take most people a lot longer than that. So I came in like game on, like I know my skill sets. I'm very confident. I also felt very comfortable writing to her this way. I said, "Let me know if you're seeking support. I think we'd be a great match and happy to answer any questions, of course." And by saying happy to answer any questions, of course, I mean like I know you're going to ask me how much I'm charging. And she came right back and she was like, "Oh my gosh, this is great timing, blah, blah, blah." And we were off to the races and we started right away. And she's still my client today. And that is 2.5 years later. And yeah, it's been great. So you just have to be yourself. So it depends. Like this, I was very familiar with her, right? So I wrote a very friendly type of, email to her because we have a history. I worked there for 3 years with her. If it's someone who you don't know, if it's, let's say, a business owner in your local Facebook group, you connect with them on that level. You might not know them personally, but hey, like I saw your post in the Woodstown, Facebook group. I love your business. I went to your website, such and such and this and that. And I grew up here, try to connect with them. This is my whole thing. This is my whole thing. You gotta try to connect and see if they're the same type of person. If they want to connect back and feel that energy and vibe, and then you go into the next like level of getting to know them, which would be, in my case, the way I do it is I do all this. If we feel like we're a great fit via email like this, then we have what I call a meet and greet. Essentially, it's a video chat just to make sure, again, we're not signing on the dotted line yet, but it's more of a video call to make sure that we're both still a good fit. So we will a forum where we can both ask more questions, get all the FAQ out of the way, talk rates, talk communication style, contracts, all of that. And that'll be in the next video or in another video. But this is just kind of your first vetting process. So yeah. Um, I hope that was helpful. But yeah, so to sum it up, you are going to kind of scan your like immediate and peripheral network and start a list of potential yeses, right? Then you're going to take that list of potential yeses, go check out their profiles online, all of it, website, socials, LinkedIn, whatever it may be, filter out a couple more that are no's based on either subject matter or vibe, right? Then you take your final list, and those are the people who you're going to reach out to directly and personalize it, and most of them are going to be somewhat warm leads because there's some point of connection there already, even if it's just the town you live in, right? So start there. And, for me, this has worked out really well in the sense of like, all of my clients right now as a VA have come from this sort of a way, and one is a referral, which is also a similar vibe. And, I don't have to look for VA clients that often. Really, I don't. I haven't. I had a one go when I launched my business doing this. And since then, I don't think I've had to advertise again. I've had a few people referred, and then I've had small project work come in. People somehow found my website. I did not even reach out to them, from another country even. Um, and that's it. And so it really is working out for me. And that's why I'm sharing it. Because it's like, I think that this method is overlooked. I think people want the quick win, the like lots of work, the like book schedule, and they don't take the time in the early stages to really check in and be like, give themselves the time to make these good choices out of the gate, and it will save you from having to be finding new clients all the time or feeling burnt out all the time, right? Because you're like constantly not only working, but then having to find new clients because maybe you're just taking on project work or these people weren't a fit and you keep having people who aren't a fit. It's like, slow down. These first steps are really vital. You can't rush through them. And, it's also where I think a lot of probably corporate America gets it wrong too, because it's like, yeah, that's a whole nother video. Not going to make that though. But yeah, slow down, take your time, listen to your body. Vibes do matter. And I hope you find clients that, are in the long haul with you for a good while. And if that is the case, if you have done this and you found some good matches, I would love if you came back to the video and was like, hey, this works. Do this. She knows what she's talking about. Because that would be really great to hear. I would love to hear your successes around going about it this way. All right, friends, until next time. Bye for now.